All right, so hi everyone. I'm Sapphire. I'm one of the co-facilitators for this really exciting session on feminist and youth-led movements. We're just asking really quickly if y'all want to move into a big circle. This is not a formal discussion. This is not going to be TED Talk style. We're having a group conversation in person and online. So if it's okay with y'all, we're going to just shift the seating a little bit so we could all sit next to each other, get to know each other, chat a little bit. That was easy. Yeah.
No, they took the other one. But this one's valid till December 31st. I think so too.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hi again. Alrighty, so we're gonna start, if that's okay with everyone. I see a few people running in. Come on, come on, come on. Welcome. Alrighty. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today in this space. My name is Sophia Alexander. I'm a young feminist activist from Trinidad and Tobago. It's a twin island nation in the Caribbean. I'm also the founder of Caribbean Feminist, which is a young feminist digital initiative that is aimed at educating young people on feminist issues, ranging from period poverty to climate justice and everything in between. Today, I'm joined by Aisha Constable, the founder of Girls Care JA, an eco-feminist nonprofit organization equipping young women and girls with the education and skills they need to promote environmental justice in their own homes and communities. I'm so humbled to be a part of today's conversation. I'm so grateful to all of you for taking the time to be here with us. For those of you in person and online, very grateful for all of you. Today's conversation is all about feminist and youth-led movements. We're all very familiar with the feminist space, so we really wanted this to be an interactive conversation. So today we're going to be talking about, what feminist movements are, what some of the feminist movements in our context and your context are doing to advance on different issues. And we're also going to be talking about what feminist movements need to succeed and to thrive. So we're going to do a little bit of networking and collaborating on what we're working on, how we can help each other, and strengthen our individual movements in our individual contexts. But before I begin, I just wanted to say a quick thank you to NGO CSW New York for allowing us the platform to have this conversation, and to the incredible folks at the Ford Foundation Center for allowing us this space. Alrighty, so we're going to start with a really quick presentation on feminist and youth-led movements. Yeah.
You're skipping the icebreaker introductory stuff.
We're going to that after. So do you want to start with the icebreaker?
Yeah.
All right, so before we get to the presentation, we're going to start with a little bit of an icebreaker. So I'm going to ask you all a couple of questions. And if you agree, you're going to raise your hand. And if you disagree, you're not going to raise your hand. Alrighty, so the first question is, raise your hand if you sing in the shower. We have a lot of shower singers.
Do me. Put up your hand.
Alrighty. Raise your hand if you speak more than one language. What is it looking like online? How many multilingual people do we have?
Devin, are they participating online as well?
Like six. Alrighty. All right. Raise your hand if you agree that pineapple does belong on people pizza. A lot of Hawaiian haters in the room. All right, last one, last one. Raise your hand if you are passionate about intersectional gender justice. All hands up. I'm assuming all hands up online too.
One thing we all agree on.
One thing we all agree on. So that's the point. It's like even though we may have different contexts and different values on certain issues, we all have a shared passion for intersectional gender justice, which is why we're all here today. So
Before we get to that, we're gonna hear from each of you your names, the country that you're from.
alrighty.
We want to know who we're talking to.
All right, we do. All right. So anybody want to start? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just pass it. Hi everyone, my name is Dion Regis. I am from New York, but my family is from Grenada and St. Lucia. What was the other? Yes, island people. And I am part of IAAP, which is the International Association of Applied Psychology at Teachers College, Columbia University, and APA, just all of psychology.
Hi everyone, I'm Amy. I'm from Indonesia. I'm studying here at Columbia, and I'm from in Columbia. I'm part of Gender Policy Working Group. Nice to meet you all.
Hi, everyone. I'm Safira. I'm from Australia originally, but I'm based here in New York and one of the co-chairs alongside Devin of the Youth Leaders and Young Professionals chapter of NGOCSW.
Hi, everyone. I'm Devin. I'm one of the co-chairs of the YOYPs with Sphera, and I'm also the program manager at NGOCSW.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michaela. I'm from the US, and I'm one of the NGO CSW interns.
Hi, my name is Martin Svatik. I'm the representative to the United Nations of an organization called Child Fund Alliance. And we engage youth and girls and children very particular about having their specific voice being the most important input to anything that we do, to all our work, which stretches from development to humanitarian, up and down the gamut, so to speak. And yeah, I look forward to the session here. Thanks so much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ava. I'm originally from Maryland, but I'm here in New York for school. I attend Pace University. My family's originally from Jamaica, so yes. And I worked with ACT Alliance and WCC. We work at the United Nations.
Hello, my name is Antjani Kipkins. I'm originally from Germany, but I also go to PACE with Ava, and I'm also an intern at ACT and WCC with Ava. Yeah, where did I forget? Oh, pronouns are they, she.
My name's Jenny. I'm originally from Norway, but I currently live here and study at NYU, and I'm here doing research on adolescent girls to the CSW as professional delegates in the civil society space.
Hi, I'm Cassidy, pronouns she, her. I'm from the US and I work with the Lifeline Fund at Freedom House.
Hi, I'm Asma. I'm originally from Tunisia, but I live in DC. I work with Freedom House at our emergency assistance program, and it's a civil society protection program that supports activists and human rights defenders at risk.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dumi, D-U-M-I, they, them, there. I am from Botswana and I wear several hats. But yeah, come in this capacity as the executive director of Success Capital Organization, which works on the nexus of human rights and sustainable development.
Hi, I'm Janelle. I use they, them, she, her pronouns. I am based here in New York, New Jersey, and my family's from Trinidad. What do? I'm a consultant and have a history in youth work and healing justice.
Hello, my name is Antonia. I'm from Brazil. I'm studying at Columbia in the Human Rights Advocates program, and I work in my country for an organization called Transmoras, mainly focused on trans rights and doing art and advocacy through these means.
Hi everyone, my name is Janet. I'm from Mexico and I'm a lawyer. I'm part of ISEC International, which is the largest youth organization in the world, and I'm happy to be here.
Hi everyone, I'm originally from Indonesia, and I live in Pittsburgh. I'm doing master degree there, public and international affairs. Now I'm part of delegation of ISEC International.
Hi everyone, I'm Isha and I'm from India. I'm currently based in Belgium, and I'm also part of ISEC, which is a youth-led organization that works towards building peace through youth leadership, and we actively work towards the Sustainable Development Goals. And I'm currently leading the branch in Belgium, so if anyone's based in Europe, I would love to have a chat as well.
Hi everyone, I'm Mina. I'm originally from Japan, but I'm also half Nepalese, and I go to university in Canada right now. I'm from the same organization, ISAC, and I'm one of the delegates for ISAC International. I focus within ISAC on sending youth on volunteer opportunities all over the world, and all these youth focus on a specific SDG. So yeah, that's what we do, and that's how we empower youth.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zoe Acuna. I'm actually from the Philippines, and I'm also together with ISEC International, and I mostly focus on women's rights, girls' rights to education.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alicia Alba. I'm also from ISEC International. I'm currently the global head of public relations, so I'm in charge of this beautiful, diverse delegation of strong women. And in my role, I'm responsible for the strategic partnerships globally for ISEC, which is such an honor. It's an honor to be here at this conference. I also manage our EcoSoc accreditation, as well as any partnerships we have and any events we attend to. I'm like the face alongside the president. But yeah, super happy to be here. And I'm originally from Canada, but my parents are from India.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sam. I am also with ISEC, and I am originally from the Philippines, but I'm currently studying in Washington, D.C. in George Washington University, where I study international affairs. And in ISEC, I lead the committee in Washington, D.C. So if anyone's ever interested in working with our committee, would love to talk to you.
Hi, everyone. Surprise, surprise. I'm also from ISEC. My name is Suniva, and I'm from Switzerland, but my mom is also Norwegian. And yeah, I lead a local committee in Zurich in Switzerland. And I'm also so happy to be here and to be part of this delegation and excited for this session.
Devin, is it possible for us to get some intros from online as well? Or oh, hi, welcome.
Maybe I should sit out there. I'm Ivy Cook, and I actually was a former ISECer. I went to Venezuela with that. Anyway, so I now represent Soka Gakkai International. I'm based here in New York, and I'm also the vice chair of the NGO committee on the status of women.
We have Yashika from India, Micah from Los Angeles, Isabel from Trinidad and Tobago, Sandy from China, Madeline from London, Alexandra from New Jersey, Olivia from NYC, Branislava from Austria, Numa from Brazil, and yeah, that's all the people online.
Nice. Yeah, it was so nice to meet you all and hear about the incredible work that you're all doing. Now we can go out to the presentation.
And the range and diversity of countries that you represent. And already we're hearing some of the synergies in terms of the areas of work. I hope you took notes, because that's what we're going to be focusing on later on. And that's a substantive part of the conversation today. When Safa and I sat down to kind of think through what we wanted to do, we had initially mulled over the idea of talking about some of the big topical global issues, then we realized an hour and a half was not sufficient time to solve any world problems. What we really wanted to focus on was building connections, allowing for conversations among the participants in the room about the work that you're doing, about the opportunities that there are for you to work together, and about how, what is working for you, what are the best practices in the areas that that you're working on and the countries and regions that you work in. I'm going to just step back here and do this presentation. So we tried to define feminism. I feel like there's no solid definition. There's no way we can do that accurately, at least. So we look at that, then we talk about young feminists. Can you go back just one, please? Right, then we talk about the work of young feminists, some of the work that is being led across the world by young feminists. Then we're going to look at some of the cross-cutting issues, like you would have spoken of some of the work that you're doing across those issues. Then again, the substantive part of the conversation, the thematic breakout groups, where you're going to go into groups based on the issues and the areas that you're working on. And answer a few key questions that we have highlighted, and then we try and kind of sum up the session, okay? So we'll try to do that in the time that is left. Okay, so what we have here as the definition of feminism on the next slide from Eastern Kentucky University is that feminism is an interdisciplinary approach to issues of equality and equity based on gender, gender expression, gender identity, sex, and sexuality as understood through social theories and political activism. Of course, a very textbook academic definition. So what I'm more interested in is whether or not you agree with that definition and what you think is missing or needs to be removed from it. How do you define your feminism? That for me is more important and interesting. So, what do you agree with in terms of this more academic definition? And what would you add to it if you had to tweak it? Any takes?
I think we mentioned this before, but I think it was part of the icebreaker. But when I talk about feminism and the definition of feminism, I always like to integrate intersectionality within it. I feel like sometimes that's forgotten because it's one thing to be a woman, but then all of us have different defining points that make us who we are. And I think it's very important to take that into consideration when we're standing up for the rights of people that are even more marginalized than just being a woman. They have other things that are part of their identity that we need to stand up for. So I think, yeah, just like intersectionality, I think I would put into that definition as well.
Okay.
I also agree with that, the intersectionality, but I think one thing that I do like about this definition is that it didn't forget about like the equity process. I think a lot of times when we talk about feminism, we always talk about the equality process, like we want equality, but that's usually like that's not the how. Equity is the how, like how exactly we're gonna go about the process towards getting that equality. So I'm really like happy that that's included in this definition.
One of the things that I'll point out about our context in the Caribbean is that feminism is a bad word. I don't know if that is true for anywhere else, but to say you're feminist is blasphemous. And I think it stems largely from the fact that feminism is seen as synonymous with the gay rights movement. And so there's a lot of pushback. My country, for example, Jamaica, is very homophobic, and so people shy away from identifying as feminists. In a conversation recently, I had an older woman say to us, you young feminists are revolutionaries. Like, I can't believe you're brave enough to say I'm feminist, because in the era that they're from, it was unheard of, and so part of what we contend with in the Caribbean is that pushback, that aversion to the word feminist. And of course, it has implications for how we show up and the work that we do. And again, I don't know what your reality is, if that's something that you have to contend with at all. If there are any connotations associated with feminism that makes people shy away from that label. Any?
So often whenever I use the word feminist, or in general, like people often respond to, oh, you think women are better than men. That's the most common definition I've received.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I come from Mexico, and so it's a country that it has a lot of sexism within its culture. And so often when you say that you're a feminist, you're viewed as, yeah, someone that wants to create a society where women rule, or, you know, that women are above men. And there is actually like a really delicate word that some men use when you identify as a feminist, and it's feminazi. So yeah, like that was more common in recent years. And so that connotation is like, oh no, you're radical. And I feel like we are stigmatized, and also like put in this box that what does it mean to be a feminist, and like if you identify as such, like you are this, and everyone is like this. And yeah, some negative connotations or characteristics to it.
We'll take one more. You had your hand.
What I appreciate about this definition is the interdisciplinary mention. I really, um, I do agree that intersectionality is really important in the way we understand feminism, but um, I really see a lot of value in the cross-cutting aspect of feminism. It ranges from, I don't know, from feminist architecture to defense policies, foreign policy. And in terms of stigmatization of feminism and feminists, um, I think, for example, speaking from the MENA region, it tends the stigmatization. One of the feminist demands is bodily autonomy, and if you advocate for that, then you're viewed as sexually available. So that's our
Wow.
twist on it.
Yeah, yeah. I can see how that would definitely have people shying away from it. I think ultimately, my personal take is that feminism, however it might be defined by any textbook or any textbook, is a very personal calling too. So it's you, and you being able to define your own politics, even as a feminist. You know, what is your agenda? What is your politics? And being able to die on that hill if needs be. But that's just me. Um, so next slide. Uh, right. So one of the things that was recently said about the work of young feminists, and it goes back to what I said just now about how young feminists are viewed as revolutionaries and radicals. Amidst a mounting roster of global crises and a lack of sufficient action from global leaders, girls and young women are increasingly stepping up as organizers and advocates. I immediately see what is missing from this, but we'll go on. They're driving crucial conversations around social, economic, and environmental injustices, and they're pushing those in charge to get serious about fixing them. I believe that girls, women, and members of the LGBT community are the face of activism in the world. And I believe that the solutions for all the crises that we're seeing in the world rest with this group. And I mean, a big part of the work that feminists now do is around systems change and this outcry for feminist futures. I think that's where the answer lies. And again, if that's something that you are convinced of, then it says, you know, it augurs well for the hope of the future, because you know that's something that is being blasted everywhere. I don't know if with the challenges that we're seeing, we'll get the kind of leeway that is needed to really create this change. But in any case, I think there's great need for us to continue being very present and vocal. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is just highlighting some of the cross-cutting issues that we've been seeing emerging and we've been working on over the last couple of years, I'd say. So we've seen COVID-19 and what that has meant for the community, the health and the economic impacts. We've seen conflict, increasing conflict in different parts of the world. The climate crisis central to all of this. We've seen economic recession and what that has meant. We're seeing inflation. We're seeing autocratic leadership. and increasing reduction in democratization in some parts of the world and what that has meant. The question then for each of you and for when you sit in your groups is, how are these issues manifesting in the parts of the world where you work and live, and how is it affecting the lived realities of women and girls? One of the things that we charge ourselves with as feminists is to be able to make the personal political and vice versa. And so there's no divorcing what is happening in our households from what is happening in the workplace, right? And so all of these issues that we are contending with as feminist activists have these cross-cutting implications, and they affect us in every facets of our lives. And so the changes that we're asking for structurally and systemically must account for that, right? Must account for the range of issues, but must also account for the diversity of the ways in which we live, the ways we show up. You know, I say to people all the while, do not leave any of your identities outside of the room. You're a mother, you're a sister, you're a worker, you're a trans person, you're whoever you are, bring your full self. And that is what we center in these conversations. So again, when you go back, when you have your conversations, think about how these issues are affecting the community and how you then through your work have to consider, you know, the full range of intersectionalities and interlinkages of these issues in those responses that you're trying to craft. Next. All right, we can skip this, but as young feminists, we bring together systemic analyses that foreground justice, intersectionality, coalition building, and solidarity. We understand that the roots of cis heteropatriarchy, economic and environmental injustice lie in colonialism and capitalism. I strongly believe that especially those last two isms are not things that we can ever forget. I know sometimes it makes persons uncomfortable, especially when we speak of colonialism. Sometimes a little bit of discomfort is good. Sometimes we have to acknowledge the realities, the history that has gotten us to this place in order to be able to consider solutions to it. We can't sweep any of it all under the carpet. It doesn't solve anything to shy away from the truth. And this is part of our truth, right? One of the things that hit me strongly in the conversations at CSW around big tech and, you know, women and digital technologies is the same technologies that we're now advancing as solutions to a lot of these crises are founded on the continued exploitation of the natural environment and exploitation and degradation that is worsening the climate crisis. And so as we speak about equity in technology, we cannot have that conversation without acknowledging what it means for the environment. We see deep sea mining as a big agenda item, a big priority area, right? How do we, you know, contend with the truth of what the implications are for that shift, for the progress that needs to be made and the challenges that it's going to exacerbate or the realities it will exacerbate. And again, what it means to men, women, girls, the worsening conditions, exploitation, the human trafficking that will come as a result of that, all those other realities, violence. Next slide. Okay, here we're just trying to highlight some of the feminists that we know in the Caribbean. And I think Amin is from Bangladesh. Sanam is from Bangladesh. That's not her name. Sorry. Okay, you know her, right? That's not Sanam. Don't tell her, right? So Ashley Burnett, my area of work is largely around climate justice. So for example, I know Sanam, the second picture, that is not her name. So she's from Bangladesh. Very vocal, very active, very prolific on the scene. The first person there is Ashley Burnett from Trinidad. Yeah. And Feminist.
Yeah, she runs Feminist Caribbean, which is an intersectional gender justice organization. And they're really doing incredible work educating young people about sexual and reproductive health and rights. They're tackling period poverty in a big way in Trinidad and Tobago. That was something that was not talked about as much before they decided to tackle it. And they're just changing the scene as it relates to feminist justice in the Caribbean. Yeah.
Okay, we said Sanam is Bangladesh climate justice.
And Christine. Yeah, Christine is also working on climate justice. She runs an organization called the Breadfruit Collective in Guyana, I believe. And yeah, Christine is just such a pillar of knowledge, and she has such a love for the biodiversity of the Caribbean. So she's doing incredible work educating young people on the climate crisis and the way that it uniquely impacts women, girls, non-binary people in the Caribbean. And she does some incredible work with, I think, the United Nations Girls Education Initiative as well to really promote education. Yeah.
Alicia?
Oh yeah. Alicia Wallace, she works for Equality Bahamas. Alicia is so incredible because outside of the Caribbean as well, she really promotes education on policy. I was reading a paper that a guideline actually, that she put out about lobbying for young people in the Caribbean, because that's on a platform that we have. When there are issues that we care about, whether it be feminist justice, climate justice, or whatever the case may be, we don't really have that platform to connect with politicians. That's one of the challenges that we have when we discuss challenges in our breakout rooms. How do we get in the rooms with the politicians and let them know that these are the policies that we want? How do we have a voice as young people in the Caribbean? And Alicia, in addition to the work that she does for LGBTQIA plus people in the Caribbean, she also does incredible work making sure that young people have a seat at the table, that they have the skills that they need to have a seat at the table, and that when they get into those rooms, they know how to talk about the issues that they care about, to really push change. So if you're not already following these lovely people, you definitely should on Instagram, and they have a website as well, Twitter, Facebook, everything.
So we just wanted to like introduce you to people we know in our space, but I want to hear, about people who are active in your parts of the world. Name drop.
Yeah,
That's the
please.
name of the game, and we're gonna follow
We're
them.
resource and knowledge sharing. We're Instagram following. We're doing we're supporting the work that's being done. Yeah.
It's actually funny because Ashley came to my panel yesterday. Yeah, and it was really nice. But so yesterday I was able to do a panel on gender-based violence in the Caribbean. And we kind of looked at ways in which mental health impacted gender norms, as well as like social media and like connecting the digital age. So I guess some of my connections from that is the First Lady of Suriname. She was there. We talked about the issues of like policies and stuff like that. We also have Ms. Okoswa Dardane Edwards. She does like a lot of work for the Caribbean as well. So anyone who's interested in the Caribbean, she has a program called Nina Young Leaders Program, which basically helps girls in the Caribbean kind of just develop those leadership skills, as well as a girls app that her own like students are developing to help with like gender-based violence and like mentorship and stuff like that. And then the last person is Janella N. Edwards. She works in Grenada, but she does a project called the HEON Project, which is called Help Empower Our Nation. And her work has been very like spectacular. She has met the late Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. So those are some people, if like you're interested in like doing work in the Caribbean. I know there's some people who are from the Caribbean in here. So yeah.
Any other names that we should know and remember and people we should follow? For doing amazing feminist work in your part.
Yeah, so in the Philippines, there's this organization called Kids for Kids, and it's headed by two sisters. One of their names is Natasha Tanhutko, the other sister, the name leaves me now, but then they do amazing work with the climate crisis and the climate emergency, because the Philippines is one of the top 3 or top 2, I believe, for the most at-risk countries in the world for the climate crisis. And they've done amazing work in rural areas, specifically like providing boats for the communities that are being at risk of typhoons ruining their villages, etc. And they do great work as well with teaching the young children in different areas of the Philippines, not just about the climate emergency, but also about feminism and intersectionality.
Yeah, so mine is a specific like person as well as an organization, but I was working with the Nepal Youth Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization in Nepal, specifically targeting the support of young girls and women who need support both financially but both physically. I was doing a research project with them specifically on the Kamlari indentured servitude, which is a form of slavery where girls were sent off. Young girls from rural areas were sent off to, work for wealthy landlords and things like that. They were promised education, of course, but, they wouldn't get any. And they would come back with a whole bunch of shock, emotional, and mental kind of shock as well. And so while I was doing that work, I had the privilege to interview one of the survivors of the indentured servitude. Her name is Bishnu Chowdhury. But after she came back, she eventually studied and became a lawyer, which is an incredible journey and story that she shared with me and that she has. But, you know, she is just one of the survivors of this indentured servitude. And I think that everybody who's, you know, survived and gone through this itself is a feminist and somebody that should be really, you know, sponsored and looked out for. So, you know, that's why I didn't really mention specific people at the beginning, but I specifically mentioned the organization as a whole, because, you know, I think it's really important for all of us to know about the organizations like these.
Devon, are there any questions online? No? Okay. And why is it important to even do this? Very often when we, you know, have opportunities to speak of groups that we know in other parts of the world, we struggle with it because we represent what we represent where we are and we know that reality. But even in our efforts to be very global in our, you know, perspective, we don't really know what's going on in the next part of the world. I had a lady approach me yesterday. She was talking to me about Uganda, and she said, "Yeah, I imagine Jamaica is just the same, right? You don't have any." I was like, like, no, you know, very different context. And so in our efforts to say, you know, we're global in what we're doing and we're representing women, then the onus is on us to really familiarize ourselves with what is going on. And if not, get associated with the groups that are on the ground so you can say, hey, I can connect you with somebody who actually knows. Don't pretend to know it, because we don't. Yeah. You know, and don't try to speak for every part of the world either. So thank you for sharing that. And that was a particularly moving story of that young woman who survived and then became a lawyer. All right, next slide. I think we're getting to the meat of the matter. Right, so we see the gamut of areas people are working on: sexual reproductive health and rights, climate justice, education, politics. And we see the similarities in the areas that have come up in your earlier presentations about the work that you do. Next slide. Okay, so here's where you get to have some fun. Hopefully you think it's fun, where you get to sit with each other, talk through the work that you're doing and answer these questions for us not in any great detail. I mean, and as you see fit, allow the conversations to go where they need to go. But the questions that we have here: what are the predominant issues that young feminists in your country, region are working on? What strategies are they using to, 1, mobilize actors, 2, source funding, and 3, get high-level buy-in or political buy-in? Next, what has or has not worked well? What opportunities are there for collaboration among, you know, the persons here in your group? And how can you work together in the future, right? So we want to get a reminder, I suppose, at this point of what the areas are that you're working on. We know that there may be some kind of outliers, but wherever it fits most closely, then you work with that group. Right? So you were taking notes, Sapphire.
Yes, I was. I definitely was. So from the discussion that we had previously, I heard some people were working on sustainable development. There was some trans rights, arts and advocacy, SDGs. A lot of people working in youth, which is very telling because it's feminist and youth-led movement.
But if there's a more specific sub-theme
that you would like to focus on, whether it's climate justice, whether it's LGBTQ plus rights, yeah, and not just youth broadly, you could definitely join those groups for that. We got a few people from girls education. Am I missing anyone? Am I missing any areas that people are working on? Yeah. Conflicts. Okay, nice. Violence. Okay. Alrighty. Nice. Okay. Alrighty. So do y'all think that we can split up in areas based on those?
And it might be best that you're not alone.
Yeah. In a group so you can discuss the questions.
Again, if there's no best fit, you know, we'll just
try to jump in on something that you maybe don't know a lot about, but you're willing to learn about, because you're going to hear a lot of perspectives as we discuss. So are we ready to move into groups?
And at the, so we'll allot 25 minutes
Mm-hmm.
for your conversations. And then at the end of that time, we're hoping that you'll have one person kind of report back.
Yeah,
right?
and give us some of your outcomes from the discussion.
The responses to those questions. But make it fun. I mean, this is where you get to curate your experience in the groups.
All right, so let's go.
Can we say the groups again?
Yeah, definitely. So we're doing, one of the main areas was conflicts and violence.
Any hands for conflict?
One hand for conflict.
Hand.
Anybody else for conflict? Okay. All right, so we have LGBTQ plus rights.
Any takers?
Any takers? We have 2,
Okay, all right.
3. Okay, all
And
right.
you see, like nobody's working on any one issue, so your conflict. So okay, fine.
All right.
You find a
So
match.
climate justice. We have 2. We have 3, 4. Okay. All right. We have a group of 4. Anybody else? Okay. All right. Girls' education. Yes.
Like educating different communities on gender equality concepts, or like just education in general, like access to education
For girls.
For girls, yeah. Mhm.
Is there a topic on like, because one thing that our organization does
Mhm.
is we have volunteer opportunities where we go into communities and kind of give resources and education and workshops and school fairs around gender equality.
So you would prefer the overarching theme be education on gender equality? Is that bad? Does that fit?
Well, I think maybe some people might find education generally relatable,
Mo-
but I
okay.
think for our, I think we can also split up because there's a lot of us.
Okay.
I think we have a lot of climate action. We have some opportunities focused on education generally speaking. So I think a third of us can go there, and then the other third of us can go to the one I was talking about, like education about gender equality.
Not a problem, definitely. You control this session to a certain degree. So if you feel like you align more with the thematic areas that you would have just brought out, you can definitely create groups around that. Yeah. So would anybody like to join for those? Can we get some hands for gender equality education, for education as a broad theme, education broadly? Anybody for education? I'm seeing a couple hands. I'm seeing 2, 3, 3. Y'all can move into the groups as you highlight them, just so we can get things moving. So we did climate justice earlier. We did conflict.
And it might not be climate justice because that might be a little bit specific, but if it's climate action.
Yeah,
in any
climate.
way,
Yeah.
Climate action, climate justice.
Is there one on you?
And then if any of them
Do you have any?
Anybody on
Any other
youth?
youth?
Any other youth people?
Youth? Okay.
All right. Over here for youth. Yeah. I understand people are working at the intersection of a lot of issues, so it's difficult to pick one. But it's just temporary. Yeah. So it's just youth generally.
Maybe we should combine the youth and because like I feel like because
Yeah, you could definitely discuss. You could definitely do a cross section, talk about education and youth. Yeah.
So you might want to take your belongings to make space for the people who are shifting, right?
where's the education people? If y'all want to grab a chair.
I'm gonna move out.
We'll move
Yeah.
things so that you have the space. And you can shift the chairs so that you're sitting.
Does everybody have a group? Everybody in groups? Education and youth. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anyone working on violence and conflict? 2? Okay. All right. Anybody else? Violence, conflict. All right. That's 3.
Feel free to reintroduce yourselves.
No problem. I just want to make sure they're distributed properly, and then
You're such a leader. Look at you.
All right, you have a group.
This works.
Okay, great. That's a big group. This is hi. What is this group focusing on? Nice. Okay.
I'm just here.
You're just vibing. Okay. What are y'all working on?
Be on your best
Climate,
behavior
nice.
today, Jimmy.
We have climate, we have conflict, we have LGBTQ plus rights, we have youth and education.
So tell everyone what
Yeah, so the
Okay, great. Beyond. How many are there now? So I guess we do. So 19 related. I guess they're moving into the group. Related, like everyone's interest. Yeah, we have 29 people on board. Like, what is your?
Understand? Yeah. It was 36 at the beginning. They tune it off.
Well, for me in the Philippines, there are what I'm interested in the Philippines is currently in its process and midpoint achieving all these SDGs. But like for me, throughout the post-pandemic, still a lot of children have a trouble to go back to school because I understand we're all in the digital age, but it's still difficult for these kids to socialize because
I understand when we have kids, it's like the one thing, but maternity instinct is like to give them for them to like calm down. But it's difficult to have them socialize just being in a digital age, wherein they have low esteem of the outside world. They don't actually understand what it's like to be outside from where they are, especially when it gives them the lowest esteem to not socialize and do educational ones.
I think I definitely agree with that because like one thing that I'm like talking to other like people about is just like the idea that like because of social media, like it does have its perks, but it also has created this sense where we don't know how to like formally communicate with each other anymore. Like conflict is on the rise in terms of like social communication. We're all too used to just kind of like resort into like self-isolation when things go wrong, like we don't know how to have like conversations with each other in person. So like even for me, I've been trying to think about ways in which how to do that, especially since I feel like with COVID, it's like pushed people to become more isolated than like it's kind of like further that drive. So now I'm kind of like thinking of like ways in which we can undo that, and I feel like that's where I like get stuck at times, like how especially like I in a panel that I was in yesterday, like one of the panelists mentioned this idea that like especially for women and girls, like being able to build like this strong community where we're able to have those communication skills because like some statistics have to like compared to like men, like girls sometimes have a harder time communicating and like our emotional like aspects of us tend to get better of us. So I've been thinking about like, okay, like how can like we create like communities or groups where we are able to like talk about our needs, listen to what our needs are, and have like that conversation despite like conflict.
That's close to what I'm working on.
Oh wow, we got a connect. Yeah.
Where you have partnerships between adult women and girls, teenage girls, in doing activism and learning about activism, learning about political agency, and girls being taken seriously as where they are right now and not just because they're women. So it's very close in a way. But the importance then of adult women being partners of the girls and being mentors instead of being their leaders or like being the ones successful. It's a legit partnership.
Yeah.
And instead of girls only finding activist organizations where they are with other youth who are boys, where sexism issues are often overlooked and girls actually can drop out of it because of it, because it's not acknowledged. And we also see like mixed youth groups where you have adult leaders that are actually more likely to point that out and educate on it for their youth. But then to see like how, well, this is what I want to do. Let's see how generational activism makes it more likely for people to continue their political activism and political engagement as they grow up instead of dropping it at a certain age because they're not included, because boys are more likely to continue it. But I think that like kind of targeted socialization almost and like learning, I think that's more important than ever. And it's something you can do online too, which actually a lot of girls be a part of it. They don't have to be it. But then again, also in person, if you don't have electronics, but should be able to adapt that to the situation.
So in my organization, we have many projects about education, and it's very similar because what we want to create, we work with a lot of people who don't have a lot of resources, and we want to create this like safe space where we can talk about these topics that can bring it up because many times these kids are very worried about maybe even working. They don't continue their education because like they don't have the possibilities. And dropping out is always like a very like strong like action in these kind of ways. So we want to create these like safe spaces for them to be, to to learn, but also to reach on these topics in gender equality that maybe is not very important in their lives, and like it must.
Saying about safe spaces is also giving exactly the perfect pattern. Have that flexibility to fail and to bound, try and learn that way.
And I also like what you said about the political. There's a lot of girls who don't want to be involved, more like families. For example, my father actually told me not to go to this side of my country, but here I am right now studying international relations by mistake, not really by accident. But in the Philippines, there is a lot of misinformation coming on when it comes to the political side of the government. That's why when we start voting, there's a lot of misinformation, push political campaigns pushing for misinformation, just wanting for people to vote for them. I'd honestly say I was a victim of that because the past president in our country mentioned that he would revoke all uniforms in public and private schools. Of course, as children, as kids, we also wanted that, but that's like a move for him to get voters to actually vote for them. That's the reason why he got voted, but he did not implement it. So, I could say as girls, ladies, women, men can actually easily manipulate them in either ways as to what they want, as to what provide what they need. But the same sense that women are very vulnerable to actually stand up for themselves and for the fact that they have a hard time saying no. In our Filipino culture, we have a hard time saying no to anything. Saying no to family, saying no to men, saying no to women. It is a difficult thing to actually say it rather than
We think that talking about information, what quality education really means, and what to have access to this information. I mean, I'm from Mexico, and it's really insane. Like, to speak up is very important, but it's really hard, and silence is so powerful that it controls. Yeah, well, like y'all three are like what you feel about it. Yeah, I think this is a little bit common language. It's how the discussion was diversification, but back to the what I'm doing with. Actually, I'm a founder of the Dream Academy. It's I start very small, like creating fresh graduates, and all my the team members are female, and they're also fresh graduates. So it's really interesting because the unemployment also still big concerns in my city is a part of Indonesia because also fresh graduates they cannot have like access to find jobs, especially maybe for salary negotiations. Probably it's kind of different when you're woman and man. It's still happens in common. And right now, I give them like positions like role, important role. They're not only just being tutor or teacher in the academy, but somehow they also fill the position as the vice president, as PR, marketing, and etc. So that's how they have this kind of skill. And I told them like, this is still a very small academy, so just do whatever you want. Do trial and error. Just do what you dream, what you want, because not even other place that they have like a straight or procedure and etc. But somehow I just all the activity, the freedom. Yeah. Until what how far you want to bring this.
So that's how my challenge because I'm here and then doing there there. So I just only meet them like once in a week to know about the progress and everything. But right now it's been like 8 months so far. Uh, so still ongoing, but now we're um, progressing. We're having like website right now, and we have like more class and more programs and also community. And one of our main programs also for community engagement is environment because we know that how important the climate environment is really right now for young people.
I really like I feel like that's always like such a big concept nowadays. It's like just do it. Just have the space to allow girls and women to explore, especially girls, like to keep going. Like, and so the fact that like you're able to do that, like even though it's smaller, but I think it's probably even better than smaller because then they can do whatever they want and try it.
For me, I work with ACT Alliance. We are a coalition of church organizations all working towards the SDG goals. But specifically for my interest, it's me being a young Black feminist in America. I think some of the issues that come up in my country and region is mainly the part of intersectionality, because as historically within the United States, the feminist community has not put enough emphasis on intersectionality and only focusing on specifically white women who are feminists and not individuals who are POC that are feminists, individuals who are part of the LGBTQ plus community and our POCs who are feminists. Like that's a very important part. And then specifically with education, I think is an issue because with the utilization of theory for feminism and being able to have that liberation, because there's this sort of gatekeeping. I don't know if it's specifically just in America, but just within the educational system, academia, there is a racial disparity amongst it. So I think that really puts a hindrance on people, young feminists, and specifically POC that are young feminists from being able to have their voice be heard and be liberated, especially because with there being a racial disparity within academia in America, it's gotten to a point where there's young white feminists and white feminists that are talking, but they're overshadowing other voices and other POCs while they're trying to advocate for us. They're not giving us a space, one, to have our voices be heard, but also two, be able to have the specific language, because language is such an important thing when like you're advocating for yourself. If you make one slip up, then people are gonna kind of delegitimize you. So not having a shared collective space for everyone to be able to have these tools and to utilize theory to really advocate for themselves and other people in their community.
I guess like what are from the work that everyone's done, like what are some strategies that you feel like have been working for you in terms of like the work you've done, and then also I guess coming in the third question, what hasn't worked as well, what would you want to say either for your country, for your organization, or just like for women and girls in general in specific areas?
Social media has been a huge impact.
Yeah.
For advocating or campaigning anything education, feminism, it's been a huge impact for the community news, wherein that's when it is a good way for us to step up. But what has not worked is something a downside engagement, it just flunks away after that. Nobody talks about it anymore. It's just old news. It was like last year and whatnot. It's not a continuous motion. Whatever you see viral, it's viral, and when it dies down, it dies down. It's not continuous. I guess for ISEC, it's a huge empowerment for us to keep keep improving in that kind of engagement with people, not just because that we only focus on college graduates, college students, students in general. It's just that we want to tell the students it's that it's their voice to use. It's their voice to use whatever they want. It is their way and how they want to share their story, share their experience, if ever there is, share what they observe to other people who actually think should be corrected on these kinds of things. Because again, as one of the youth leaders, we are the next generation actually making an impact to the future generations as well. So yeah, I think it's better to keep on continuing on what we think is proper and what can we think is more effective, not just social media. So
Do you think it's possible to like, because I'm thinking about this too, but be able to like use more like community-based efforts, like more in-person things? Is that helpful?
I think in person is helpful. It's quite that there is not much engagement for it. Striking aside the COVID and all, but when you hand somebody a pamphlet, they just like ignore it. It's or throw it away. It's something of a try. It's a trial and error thing on how we can get these words that we want to share out to people, not through basic engagements that we already know. It's something that we have to experiment on. In fact, that it's something that it's kind of hard for us because it's something that needs to be approved by our government. So I think probably the latest thing I've kind of noticed is that I find this very interesting. I've attended like a latest bazaar in our hometown where there's literally one aisle full of sex toys. I'm like I'd be very happy to see there are these kinds of companies, little small businesses that thrive to not hide those things. Because I'll be honest, for me, I'll be a little bit embarrassed, but it's normal. It's something that for them makes it empowering to actually step up things that should not be hidden. Because right now, I'm pushing for not hiding tampons. I would like make fun of people. Not really make fun. It's like, why are you hiding that? It should not be hidden. But because of hiding stuff, does not, well, for me, it does not make us look prime and proper. It's not ladylike because that's what men labels us. Another thing is patriarchy. We men likes to label people. I don't want to say that men do that, but it's it's an instinct that that makes us women feel very conservative, very embarrassed of what our actions are doing.
I analyzed the data. I did data alumni actually.
Oh, really?
So my first CSW was through PACE.
Oh my
And I
God.
analyzed the data from girls' conversation circles. And one thing that was so frequent was girls asking for education to like cancel out any stigma related to period. And especially, I found it really interesting because it was like across the board of all regions, was girls asking for their brothers and their fathers to be educated on periods so that they could talk to them about it. So,
I feel like it's because now there are a lot of single fathers who are very uncomfortable, not really or don't know how to have that kind of conversation to actually
or like teach their kids how to use a tampon, how to use a so just be able to say, I'm on my period.
Or even having don't say like oh my god, there is like the closest basic knowledge of what's happened. It's so taboo. Yeah, it's very similar in the Caribbean too. Like it's just like the culture of silence and like the dismissiveness around like dating, sex life, even something as human function as a tampon and period is like parents don't want to really talk about it because they feel uncomfortable. But it's like that's the only way we can break that stigma. And I really think the family unit is really important.
I agree. I feel like with
oh no. Okay. Okay. Continue with your
I feel like one of the repercussions of like it just not being normalized to talk about natural things, like it's natural for our bodies to do this. It causes like intergenerational trauma where that cycle gets continued, where it's like now the women are now being like unable to like talk about it. Same thing with the men. Like if it's like a single father and he's talking about it with his daughter and he doesn't have a conversation with her, and when she goes to have kids, she's gonna do the same thing, and the cycle just continues and continues. It's like such a vicious cycle that it really could just be eradicated if we just kind of normalize it and destigmatize it. Exactly, because we know it's a thing that happens. Like it's normal. Like it happens all the time. Like we shouldn't be so uncomfortable to talk about it. Uncomfortable, like if I have a tampon in my bag and it falls out of my bag, they're like, oh my god, someone saw a tampon. Like, oh my gosh, like no, it's normal, but yeah.
Yeah, actually, so I think because even for me, and I feel like that's how I've grown up, but like the swipe and pass, like with your friend, but now like so yesterday or the day before, my friend asked me for a pad, I was just like, hey girl, she's like, we're in college. I was like, yeah, a pad. Like, so some guy was like standing in the corner. It was just him, but she's like, we're in college.
You don't decide when it happens.
Yeah, we don't decide when it happens. I'm just like, no, we're breaking this. Like, it has a cute wrapper, like hair taken, like it does not matter.
And I feel like at the root of it, where it's like why women are feel like ingrained to be embarrassed, is just because it's uncomfortable for men. So that's why it's a thing. It's because men don't feel comfortable with talking about periods and stuff like that. So we're not gonna talk about it because patriarchy.
Men comfortable.
Exactly.
I mean, like, it's a natural thing, like you guys said, and it's something that they should accept.
Yeah.
It's they are not.
Yes. Right. They're not the ones that have to have kids.
They're not the one who's feeling all the pain. They're not feeling the pain every month.
Exactly.
And that's why, so like yesterday at my panel, like it was so funny because I asked a question about like how what are not men should play a role in like in terms of like the feminist movement and stuff like that. And literally the two panelists, one was like, yeah, I think they should because like example like single fathers and stuff like that. But then the other one was like, no, they shouldn't play a role because it has always been our fight. We've always had to like fight them for it. And so it's like both points that they're making is making sense to me. So I'm like, how do we reach a middle ground with that?
It's really hard because like something we do in Mexico, it's been going on for some years. Is that we in the month of March we put like a little rope where many people in general and like public denouncers of violence or stuff like that. And I mean, at the beginning it was it's very empowering to just say the things, and it can be anonymous or not. But things that happen is that men take those places just to like put things for revenge or something like that. So they, I mean, constantly in my university they put like professors or even other girls like, oh, she ghosted me, or oh, I don't like this professor. It's like, no, it's losing the meaning of what it was. So the line is very thin on how we integrate them in these conversations because they have to be the conversation, but also like they must learn to respect these spaces and to be able to listen, to just learn
I agree. I think another like issue with like incorporating men, I think one facet that needs to happen before we even incorporate them into these spaces is giving them that basis level education. Because like without that education, then they're coming into these spaces being ignorant and coming in with their preconceived notions of what it means to be a woman, what it means to be a feminist, XYZ. And I think, like you mentioned too, as well, letting them know that this is a space where yes, you can be involved in, but you're not supposed to overshadow. Like men overshadow women in every single facet of the world for the most part, and this is a space where you shouldn't be overshadowing us. I think that's one thing that like needs to, I think, be defined before like having these men in these conversations, which I do think it is important for them to be in these conversations just due to the fact where it's one, good to have more people to be supporting us, but I think it's also good to be having a population of people who have been in power and who are still in power, and there's an unequal balance to have some of those people in power be not overshadowing our voices, but echoing those voices, because sometimes when we can speak as women, people are just not gonna, they're gonna immediately just desensitized and not actually listen to us just because of our gender, but sometimes having a male counterpart not overshadow but echo our voices sometimes can open up doors into different things. It can also destigmatize it as being like, okay, he's a man who understands these things, although it's very sad that like someone may think that like, oh, he's a man, like this is cool, I can respect women's rights, I can respect what women are, but unfortunately that's kind of how it is. So there are some benefits to having men in these spaces.
From Norway, like we're one of the most equal, like closest to equal countries in the world, but we're not equal. There are no countries in the world where men and women are equal, and that's something that men really rely on back there. Is like, oh, haven't we had enough of this? Are we equal enough? We have to keep talking, and it's like
That's even insane.
how gender equality is, what it means, what discrimination is.
Yeah, them getting tired and annoyed about it.
And then some places it is more equal, but you look at the rest of the world and the fight is not over. And then having men who can go in their own men-only spaces and call out other men, that is so important. Yeah, that like it's crucial because what's doing like those doors in a way
is important.
Yeah, having men come out there too.
Can I get everyone's like, do you guys have LinkedIn? Or let me get everyone's LinkedIn.
Time is up. Okay. Hi, everyone. Time is officially up for our discussions. I'm so sorry to cut some really incredible discussions that are happening. I hope that y'all have elected a speaker to do our summaries because I would love to hear some more about what y'all have been discussing. I was floating around. I heard some things about garment worker rights. I heard about including men in discussions on feminist justice. I heard discussions on tech. I heard about collaboration opportunities in the back over there. So I'm really excited to hear your answers to the questions. We're going to do brief summaries online and in person, just to, hear what the challenges are, how we're collaborating. Did any group want to go first, or do I just have to pick? Okay, I see a hand. Nice.
Thank you. Hi. So our group was mainly focused on climate justice and how that topic also includes gender equality, but also like going on a global scale and so on. And our discussions were actually very interesting because we just started with introductions and then we started understanding about what our organizations actually are doing towards climate justice. And then like half of us are like students, and then the others are already established and like working in organizations directly focused on climate justice. And we were brainstorming kind of solutions of how, when we talk about climate justice, this, like it's also about how does this topic actually interact with politics, or also on a global scale, that yes, we could be taking actions on the local level, but how do we make this reach to the decision-making power? So we discussed about, for example, daily decisions. So starting at the ground level is the kind of decisions that you make also in your youth group. So in ISEC, for example, when we do conferences or when we have different kind of workshops with people, we totally avoid using plastics or even paper. We're trying to digitalize a lot of things. But then also we do workshops where we educate other people or other organizations, especially schools, about how you can have more sustainable consumption, so SDG 12. But then we also discussed around topics of collaborating. So the best way of actually having more sustainability could be like putting the right people in touch with the right ones. So we were discussing the fact that the globe, it's of course profit-based. Every organization wants to make money. So how can we provide that incentive while connecting them to the right people, like a plastic company that produces sustainable plastic, or like more sustainable versions of a product, collaborating with another one, so how we can connect those kind of parties together, but also about bringing more youth perspectives into the topic, because they're the ones that are making these active decisions of like choosing a vegan product over meat, or, going through other alternatives. So yeah, we also discussed already of like how we can bring more youth also in discussions of COP, for example. So we were talking about COP28 and so on. So yeah, we're really looking forward to collaborating with the group here.
Okay, so can I bring it to this group over here? All right.
Okay, hi everyone. So we talked about education and youth and some of the notes. So this is just kind of like from what everyone was sharing in terms of like different organizations, everything. So the first thing we talked about was the mentorship/partnership of women and girls, having women and girls being able to work together to be able to help the future generation grow, but having girls be able to have that space to advocate for their needs starting now. They don't have to wait until they're full-fledged women to advocate for whatever they need. So whether in the education space, whether at home, families being able to help them advocate starting now. We also talked about like the difficulty for women and girls in all ways in the world to be able to say no, but really focusing on self-empowerment, how we are able to raise that self-confidence, that self-esteem, etc. We also talk about, and I'm stealing Nike's logo, but just do it, helping girls to not be afraid to try, not to be afraid to fail, and also to explore different aspects within education. Sometimes, obviously, like women gets put into certain fields when it comes to occupations, etc. We know that through STEM, so really advocating for girls to be able to say like, I want to try this, I want to do this, we're going to do it. And then lastly, I'll skip a few that we talked about, but kind of addressing like the intergenerational trauma of stigma. This was what really got us hyped up, but we started talking about like, for example, like menstruation, like why is it taboo for girls to have to hide their tampons, their pads, destigmatizing conversations surrounding sex, dating, etc., and really starting at the family unit to break some of those barriers in order to create change. So thank you.
Some brilliant, brilliant outcomes from this group. Can we pass over to two groups online? Okay, so we're thrown over to the LGBTQ plus rights group. Can we hear some of what y'all were discussing online?
I see Yashika has her hand raised, and Alexandra. So Yashika, if you want to jump in.
Hello, everybody. Really nice to be here with all of you, joining in virtually, but nice to see all of your faces and really glad to be part of this circle. So my group was for youth engagements and youth-led engagements. And our participants, like my team members, were Alexandria, Julia, Esther, we had Festus, and we had Kimberly. And if there's anybody else, please please add to whatever I'm adding to the pointers. So we started the discussion about how youth are given spaces on the table, but they are not given the time or the position to speak. So it's not just about giving a place, but it's also about how youth should also be given spaces to speak and represent their voices. So bringing role models from grassroots, from marginalized communities, and also to give that agency to youth, to bring their creative and innovative aspects also. Then we also talked about how youth-led movements are like, we can't talk about youth-led movements without considering the intersectional and also the intergenerational part of it, because one of the key factor of youth-led movements is something that we need intergenerational support and intergenerational training from our adult members as well, because we need to be treated equally and we need that support from our intergenerational leaders. And we also discussed some of the pointers about networking and bonding. So Esther mentioned that we should really have some spaces like this conversation circle, where we can talk about our opinions, we can talk about whatever ideas and innovative thoughts we have in related to our different fields. So a platform where all of us can share our ideas and also bring in our work together. So Kimberly was suggesting how we can start an app or maybe connect through LinkedIn and WhatsApp to start that conversation, to at least know what kind of work we all are doing. And from that, to make that collaboration work and take that collaboration to the action mode next. Anybody from my group who wants to add, please do.
Thank you so much for that contribution. I think it was really, really incredible that you brought up the importance of intergenerational partnership. And I would love to see that young feminist platform idea realized. I thought that was really cool. Can we hear from one more group online? All right, that's perfectly fine. So we're just gonna do another group from in here. Anybody? All right.
Hello, if everyone wants to add, please feel free. We started discussion about LGBT, but after a good provocation of Dummy, we thought about reframing the theme to intersectionality, already identifying a red flag about how often LGBTQ queer people are we are now in this role of just finding solutions or discussing our own problems instead of being a broader stage discussing all the biggest challenges in the world. So we reframe this to intersectionality. We discussed a little bit about how we could problems about the bridge that we can create between grassroots and global, because often this bridge don't exist, which lead us to lack of resources. And we identified a lot of opportunities in collaboration, creating links among us. So we did a great presentations together. Everyone is working in different issues, in human rights, education, gender equality, health, healing, peace, and we saw some connections to get everyone involved, producing speech about how everyone can be impacted by climate change, for example, or other issues. And we decided to open a WhatsApp group and to produce a webinar to showcase what already exists. So Dumi share a project, for example, using waste materials, factories, other people working with sustainable fashion or challenging the fashion industry, for example. That is something that I am working in Brazil. So creating these links, the links Janelle with peace and healing process. So not, Dumi said, not inventing the wheel, but using everything that already exists to produce these bigger platforms for strong movements, of strong feminist movements. Yeah, do you want to add something? Okay.
We can always count on Dumi to provoke something,
Yes.
right?
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Dumi. Good provocation. So, we have 5 minutes left, and we have a hard stop at 4:30, right? So, in our attempt to be fair, we're going to give the person online, Shanali, 2 minutes to present on behalf of the education group, and then we're gonna take our final group here on conflict and violence, I believe. Okay, so let's see how well we can do with 2 minutes, Shanali, please.
Oh, thank you. I was actually, the hand up was an accident, but I guess I will share what we spoke of. We discussed a few things. We discussed about sports too. One of the interesting things was storytelling to educate kids from a young age. So that way, I think it was Claudia. She's a children's books. She writes children's books. So she mentioned using girls as an astronaut or learning about dinosaurs. So we are changing the way, like normalizing how we view women from a young age, teaching the kids. So that's one of the things we discussed. Even sports, why our women's sports are not getting enough funding or popularized. Maybe that's because we need to educate more people to show that it's okay for us to be a part. I mean, men and women need to watch. I'm sorry, I was unprepared to share this. But also one of the other topics we discussed was having a common space for all of us to come together. And I really love that all of you speakers who spoke before as well said, we need a space so we can all come together, a safe space so we can discuss. That's something we are doing with Power of Women as well. So I would love to have all you youth leaders be a part of it. It's with solidarity, we can bring about change. So, and educate. So yeah, thank you. And I'm sorry if I missed anything. Anybody else from the group can chime in.
Yes, hi. We were discussing about conflict and violence. So the first question was to how violence is in our countries or different realities, and what are the main problems in this conflict. And we talk about what have been working, what has not working, especially I think in Latin America is the corruption and the system. And the conclusion, I think, was that we live in different realities, and there are some things we could do, especially what the youth is doing right now. And the NGOs are really working towards better world without violence. So I think we could collaborate in doing strategies to stop violence, especially with women and children. And I think that's it. So if I'm missing something, you can.
Thank you so much, everyone online and here in person, for your incredible contributions. I feel like this is the core of the feminist movement. It's collaboration, it's listening, it's hearing about others' perspectives, their lived realities, what works for them, what doesn't work, so that we can advance the movement on a global scale. Somebody spoke about grassroots to global, and I feel like this is a great step towards that. So yeah, I just want to thank you all so much. This is just the beginning of the conversation. So I hope that you all have each had the opportunity to connect with each other, whether it be on LinkedIn or exchanging numbers. I'm hearing we have a webinar coming up soon, so I hope we get the link to that.
I think we have 3 webinars.
Yeah, okay, all right. Please share the links. We'll make sure to participate. But yeah, I just want to thank each and every one of you. Spaces like this give me so much hope as a young feminist from the Caribbean, just to see the work that's being done, just to see that even though it can feel, you were mentioning earlier that you're just standing on your own, there's a growing and thriving community of feminists. So I just want to say thank you so, so much to each and every one of you. Over to you, Aisha.
Yeah, I just want to echo the thanks, really. Thank each of you, all of you, for showing up as your whole selves, bringing really good energy, telling your stories in such powerful ways, and allowing for the connections to be made. You brought life to the idea that we had of, creating a space for conversations. Like, everybody was so animated and just giving their all to the discussions that were had. Continue to hold space for each other. We need that. We've talked about the worsening conditions, the conflation of issues globally, and what that means for the movement. And we recognize that there's an increasing need for us to continue to support each other and hold up each other and continue to fight for a feminist future. Picture in a minute or less. Yeah. Before Devin scoots us out.